leading on the inside of me, telling me to come out of the closet and talk about what happened in my life.
Tulsa Talks is the podcast that is inspiring people to have everyday meaningful conversations to gain perspective and help the world.
You're out at the Greenwood Chamber of Commerce Outdoor Air Market promoting your book, and it happened to be Juneteenth weekend, and a lot of things going on. And tell me a little bit about your book, if you would. Why did you write the book? How did you get the opportunity to do that? Why did you do it?
Well, I did have the opportunity to write my story because, I would talk about, different things that took place in my life to, like a little bit of people, but I wasn't talking to crowds. And I felt, to write my book and share with the whole entire world. Is that something I personally wanted to do? No, because I didn't want everybody in the world to know the things that I faced, I went through, tough times, difficult times. I didn't want the whole world to know that. But there was a prompt or a leading on the inside of me, telling me to come out of the closet and talk about what happened in my life. Just be upfront and real with people and write it in the book, so.
Do you think that people that are prompted to do this and share their challenges, their tragedies and triumphs, that helps the community at large?
It absolutely.
Be able to see their self in that situation and maybe get inspired to be able to change or connect with it somehow?
Absolutely it does, because I say that because ever since my book has been published, after I wrote it, a lot of people have said they read it, it inspired them. They faced difficulties and tough times and, difficult situations in life. And my book helped them get through, even in the prisons as well, so yeah.
So where all do you go and sell your books and tell people about your experience?
I talk about my experience, pretty much everywhere I go. Like I'm prepared for this. I wake up for this. I live for this, to share about what happened and, and make book sales. As a best-selling, award-winning author, I set up around town. I've set up at tons of different places, and everywhere I'm somewhere doing a book signing, people will say, hey, I remember you. You were set up at so-and-so. You were here. You were at Walmart. You were at the Tulsa State Fair. You were set up here and there at Mother Road Market. And so, I just find it an honor to be able to give back and sell my books and tell my story,
What's in the book? What's the name of the book? Show me and us the book.
The name of my book is I Broke Out of Prison, and I was led to come up with this title. I mean, I didn't come up with it. I was led to come up with this title, and it's inspiring lives, millions of lives, by way of CBN, the 700 Club, which is a millionaire platform, and a lot of different other people in the world, millions of others, tell their story, testimonial about what happened in their life and how they're an overcomer. And so I'm on that platform, and I'm humbled and I'm honored to be able to share my true life story of things that happened to me when I was younger, which landed me in prison, Can
I look at it?
Absolutely. So I was 21 years old on my book. I was 21 years old at the time. And, I just share, I just keep it real and share with others, and people are impacted.
How are they impacted?
A lot of times when I'm out doing book signings, people would say they heard of me. They saw my story on Fox 23 News or Channel 2, Channel 6, Channel 9, Channel 8, CBN, the 700 Club, radio stations, KRMG 102.3, KJAMS 105 podcast, radio stations, Tulsa World's newspaper. People, they recognize my story, and they honor me, and they love on me. They hug me. A lot of people cry, about my story, and, they say they face some difficulties or they have a family member as well. So
what kind of difficulties did you experience, and why were you in prison? And what is prison actually?
Prison is, when someone is out there, like me, myself, I was living it up. Living a crazy lifestyle, selling drugs, robbing, burglary, stealing, theft, fighting in school. Different things happened to me as a youngster. All my life I had to fight. The other girls would try me out in school, and my mom raised us up, to fight back, so I had a lot of suspensions, which led up to being expelled, and a juvenile, out skipping school, boyfriends young, doing things I don't have no business doing. And I got in trouble, in and out of juvenile, in and out of jail. And one day I got sentenced. I got sentenced to prison at 21 years old.
21.
I was 21 at the time. Yeah.
How long did you stay in?
They gave me an 8-year sentence. Mm-hmm.
What does that mean? How much did you serve?
I served 3 years. Mm-hmm.
So you were a good girl while you were in prison.
Well, I really don't want to say that, but it's because the help and the strength from God I was, not anything from me. I prayed. I learned how to pray. I learned out about, God, and that, I am somebody. I'm beautiful, I'm blessed, I'm worthy, I'm somebody. And I would receive that out of the Bible. And I had a few Christian friends. We would talk and pray. And a lot of times I learned, even while I was locked up, I learned how to fast and pray. So a lot of times when it was time to go to the chow and, eat and stuff in the cafeteria part of the prison yard, a lot of times I didn't go. I would kneel down on my bunk and I would pray, and I would decline food because I would learn from the Bible. And also they have, I learned from Kenneth and Gloria Copeland Ministries, Joyce Meyer Ministries, and so many others. I learned about, the better life,
When did you come to become a Christian?
I'll say I'm a, follower of God, Jesus Christ. I can't say anybody else's name. I will get in trouble by God. No, because I talk to a lot of people and I do tons and tons of interviews. And I can't give anybody else the credit. Jesus Christ did save my life. And my back was up against the wall. I had nowhere else to turn. And I cried out for a true change from the bottom of my heart, my soul. And I accepted Jesus Christ in my heart to be my personal Lord and Savior. And that's, he's my rock. He's my foundation. And I cannot make it. I do not have any strength to make it every day of my life without God in my life.
When did that happen? Was it before you went into prison or while you were in prison?
This was while I was in prison, while I was in jail, before they sentenced me. I didn't even know that I was going to get sentenced yet. But at the time, it's between 1 to 2 weeks, 7 to 14 days. During some time while I was in there, my life flashed before my eyes, and it was my time to get changed because my parents did raise us up, going to church, knowing about God. But I was so young, so I really don't count that. I really don't consider that because I was so young, 3, 4, 5 years old. I don't know.
And then y'all stopped going to church for a little while?
Well, some things happened with my parents, and they ended up getting a divorce, and that affected the whole family. And some things happened with my dad and my mom, different things as far as drugs and alcohol, prison with my dad. And so, but I remember as a little girl, I would wear dresses a lot and go to church and stuff. And I remember that touch, when I was little about God. So I'm just saying that to say that my time came at 21 in the Tulsa County Jail, and my life truly changed around for the better.
There is an ongoing joke or saying that, do you know where Jesus is?
Jesus is sitting on the throne.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the answer
he's
to
in
this
my
little
heart.
bit of a joke is he's in jail.
He is. You know
why he's in jail?
I know why he's in jail.
Because people find him there and leave him there.
They do. They fight him there. They fight the calling on their life. They don't want to surrender, and they leave him there. And he's there because he sets the captives free. And he talks about that in his Bible.
Right.
And so he wants to break the chains off of people's lives. And a lot of people are in and out. I was in and out. But in 2003, at 21 years old, it was my time. And I received a miracle. I received it. I literally did.
Why did you continue? Why do you continue with Jesus as your Lord and Savior? Why are you doing the book? What's different about you this time than before when you had been in and out of juvenile and jail and all of that? Then you finally got to go to prison. What is different now since then?
Well, what's different now since then is, it's not really a difference, because I didn't just say Jesus, God, Bible, prayer, church while I was in. I'm still utilizing what I have,
Yeah. But what's the key is my question, is because the old saying is, and I kind of flubbed it up, but you know why people say that Jesus is in jail? And the answer is because people find him there and leave him there because they're in a pressurized situation. And a lot of people, even in everyday walks of life, they cry out to God, they get their miracle, they get some kind of advice, they take the step that God shows them, and then they're done until they have another situation that they don't want to be in. Mm-hmm. Have you seen that in life?
I've saw that. There's different people that I know, different family members, ex-friends, I hear about that. I see that. And it's real, out here in life, Yeah.
There's another saying, there are no atheists in foxholes.
I've ran across some. I've actually ran across some, and it just seems with some people that no matter what happens, some people just will not believe, But that wasn't the case for me. For Rattia Rogers, locked up at 21 years old in the Tulsa County Jail, my time came. It happened for me. I surrendered. And he is the chain breaker. I can personally witness for myself, And
you had drug addiction?
I was a drug addiction to narcotic pills, and alcohol, drinking heavy alcohol and narcotics was my thing,
And you saw drugs while you were in prison, I assume? You knew people that were using drugs while they were in prison?
I don't know. I think some people, I'm kind of thinking maybe some people were selling it. I don't know, but I wasn't really
you weren't in that group?
affiliate. No, God got a hold of my heart, and I wasn't affiliated with anything. I think I heard, it's been so long ago, but I think I heard maybe somebody was, I know for a fact, I was at a store selling my books, and a lady had told me that some women were selling drugs. And I said, oh, really? And I'm like, all struck, I'm like, oh, really? Because I didn't know at the time, because she said she remembered me, and she had told a story where, it really shocked me, because I don't know if that would have happened. I don't know, because the lady told me, she said, she was real close with another lady, and something happened where the lady got mad at her and beat the crap out of the lady with something, and had the whole dorm, not the whole compound, the whole dorm to sing happy birthday. While she was beating the heck out of a lady, they had a real close relationship because the lady had did something or whatever behind the lady's back. And so a lady told me, it was an older lady, told me a little earlier this year about that. And I never heard of that. And I just thank God, because he kept me where I wasn't, there was a fight that was going to happen, but God took it away. The lady ran downstairs and got away from me. I could have snapped, and I just thank God for taking that away from me. But it just, the question you said, it just reminded me of that situation. And, there's no way I could let somebody just beat the heck out of me, and I'm locked up in prison like that.
Yeah. So 7 to 14 days. And I assume it was a county jail that you were incarcerated before you went to prison. 7 to 14 days, somewhere in there, you were, quote, born again, as a lot of people call it.
I was in there for a long time, but yeah, I would say during that period of time is where my back was up against the wall, and, nobody was there, because I had ex-homeboys, ex-homegirls, mom, sister, just different people that I had did life with, they weren't there. Nobody was there for me. It was only God. And at that moment, I received a miracle, which changed my life forever.
Yeah. A lot of times I've observed that people, when they get into a real pressurized situation, and like I was talking about, Jesus is in jail, no atheists in foxholes is another saying. We get into these pressurized situations and we cry out, and yours stayed. It stayed
because I just thank God, because if it didn't stay, I would be lost again. I wouldn't be a successful person that's inspiring millions of lives all over the world. I would not be who I am if it was not for the power and the strength from God. I couldn't do what I'm doing. There's no way. Mm-mm.
Tell me about what's in the book. You set people free that are in prison?
Well,
through this book.
What's in my book right here is I talk about gang affiliation. I was in a gang. I sold drugs. I robbed. I stole. I've been through a lot in life due to the way I was raised up, my community, things that I saw.
Come on now, I'm going to interrupt you right there, because you don't think there were other children that experienced the same thing that didn't go down that road?
Yeah. There's other ex-friends, ex-homegirls, ex-homeboys that went down the same road that I did.
But were there others that did not go down that road?
Very
few?
Very few. A lot of them did because, there's even people that I see that I went to school with, and they say, hey, I remember you. You were bad. You got into a lot of fights. I remember you. But the majority, a lot of them went to prison, and a lot of them are dead. A lot of them died. They died.
How old are you?
I'm 4'3".
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I'm 43 years old.
43 years old.
And I went to prison at 21.
A lot at 43, and you got out at 24, so you're about 19 years out of incarceration, roughly, with that quick math. So 21, 3 is 24, 43, 19 years being free. And you wrote this book when?
I wrote my book in 2018. I wrote it in 2018.
So 7 years ago, 12 years out of being incarcerated, you wrote the book.
Yes. I wrote my book. I'd been out of prison a long time, and then I wrote my book. It's been out, and I'm impacting a lot of lives.
And you've traveled around the United States some doing this? Selling your book?
Some by way in person and some online. Okay. In person and online. My book is in a lot of states. A lot of people hear about me and they buy my book. They're impacted. And I just love to give back because, like I tell people, it's not about robbing. It's not about gang affiliation. It's not about stealing and burglaries and doing all this corrupt stuff that's not going to lead you anywhere. You're gonna go to prison. You're going to go to prison and serve time. You're going to go to prison for life, or you're going to be dead 6 feet under. And so that's why I go back to the juveniles and I speak to them. A lot of them, they take me funny, they laugh, they ask questions, some of them make fun of me. And, I'm there to speak up. And, a lot of times I have to put some bass in my voice and speak up really loud. And I have everybody's attention just like that. Even the staff people have said, ooh, wow, y'all needed her. She needed to come in here and talk to y'all. So I love to give back because this is real. A lot of them take me as a joke. Some of the Mexican, Hispanic community take me very serious, and I'm honored for that.
What would your younger self have done if you would encounter yourself now? What do you think that your younger self, as focus on self-destruction and destroying those around you through these gang and robbing and all these other activities, what do you think that your younger self would do with an encounter with yourself now?
An encounter with myself right now?
Yes, your younger self. If you connected with your younger self, do you think that your younger self could have received the information that you're currently giving?
When I was younger, I want to say when I was locked up in juvenile, I was in and out of juvenile, in and out of jail. And I received a little bit of information, I want to say, 12, 13, 14 years old, even before I had a baby at 15 out there running the streets crazy. I did listen to others that came into the juvenile to talk to us, 12, 11, 13, 14 years old. And I received a little bit because there were leaders, just like how I go in now and I give back and I talk to them. I did receive, but due to me not having, I want to say I was powerless at the time. I had no power. I was powerless. And now I have power by God on the inside of me to continue doing what I'm doing. Because there's no way I can do this I don't have strength. I don't have the power to write a book, inspire lives, talk about it on TV, radio, whatever, newspaper. I don't have it in me. So I want to say to that, no. The answer would be no, because I was, and I understand they're so young when I go and I give back, they're naive, they're 13, 14 years old. They're in there throwing up gang signs while I'm in there, telling me to throw up my ex gang sign. And I said, no. I said, y'all know what I'm finna throw up? I'm finna throw up praise God, and then some of them will lift their hands up. And so, no, the answer to that is no. I was so young. I didn't have the power. And then, a lot of them get out and they're back into the same community, and a lot of them, they have to have a guardianship, and a lot of the guardianship, is up to no good. And so that's where they get it from, parents, community, family, friends, so they don't know how to break out of that. They don't know how to break out of that juvenile prison, the prison system in their mind, their lifestyle. They don't have a clue. They don't know. They're powerless.
It's almost like I'm hearing there is a generational curse of parents mentoring children through a path to engage in that same same lifestyle. And I'm reasonably okay with simple math. And you just said, without saying a moment ago, that you had a 5 or 6 year old daughter when you went to jail.
My son.
My
son was like 4 or 5 years old at the time.
Yeah. 15, 21.
He's 27 now.
27.
Yeah.
So what did your son do? What happened to your son through that process of you going to prison?
Well, actually, my mom and his dad, my mom and my family and his dad and their family helped out with my son. So I never had my son taken away from me. I never
did for 3 years while you were incarcerated. From the time he was 5 or whatever until the time he was about 8. Those were formidable years.
Yes. But as far as the state, a lot of people.
No, I get it. Yeah, but it was still, Mama was removed.
Yeah. But, during that time, like when I talk to him, sometimes I'll say, hey, remember that time when I was on my 3-year Bible college vacation? And we'll laugh, we'll get a good kick out of that because, during the time, even though I was taken away, my son was taken away from me through me being locked up, not the state's custody, but my family, right. During that time, it's just like somebody going to the Navy or Army or something like that for some years and they're learning. And so I'm saying that to say that during that time frame in my life, it taught me a lot. They gave me an 8-year sentence. Like I said, I was gone away from my son, my family for 3 years. But during that time I was gone, it taught me principles about life, about God, and it won't leave from me. Psalms 119:11. Thy word have I hid in mine heart that I might not sin against thee. And so it stuck with me. It's just like someone that did, they went away, they went out of the country, army or whatever. And it's still in me on how I would be taught to get on my knees and pray and fast, and I wouldn't eat, and I lost, a lot of weight because I would fast and eat and pray and take, it's like a miracle happened. It's like the supernatural jumped on my life. And even it was hard, but it was doable with God. Even one of my roommates had got a cheeseburger. And during this time, I was led to go on a fast. And like I talk about in my book, I Broke Out of Prison, she put this cheeseburger right in the window and I'm on a fast and it looked real good. I wanted to grab my roommate's cheeseburger and eat that cheeseburger, but I was on a fast and I couldn't eat, the normal things that I would normally eat in the cafeteria and canteen, So it taught me a lot being away, and it stuck with me, you know?
Yeah. What do you think that it did to your son? Was it beneficial for mama to go away for a little while?
You know, it's not hard to say. It's the real truth, the reality of what happened. Me and my son both know that it helped me. You know, it helped me when I was away, and when I came back, he could see, you know, different in me, and it helped us together, you know.
How is he now at 27 years old?
He's 27, and he's facing some things in life, but he's going to get over them. He has a mama that prays, and I don't care what the situation's looking like. God can part the Red Sea. He can remove a mountain. So my son is going to be all right.
I had no idea anything about your son. We did not talk about this pre-recording, just to let everybody know it wasn't a setup. Okay. Sorry to hear that your son is dealing with something, but we know that God is great enough to help guide our lives as they should be and make miraculous occurrences just in his perfect timing.
Yes, he'll be calling me today or tomorrow. He's doing just fine, and I just thank God, you know. Yeah.
So where's your next step?
My next step is, you know, I decree and I talk about this. I'm going to have a movie. My true life story will be a movie. You know, people count me out. They tell me to shut up, sit down. You're not nothing. You're never going to be nothing. Your voice is not going to be heard.
Still today?
You know, still today, Stephen, still today that I'm a successful individual, and all around me, people know that and they see that and they find out about me because my story is all over.
But some people still say
that. Yeah, I even heard this from a family member who told me that. You know, it was even my mom who told me, you know, and that, oh, you ain't nothing. You're not worth, even out of prison, and I'm a success story. I've got my book. I'm giving back to the community. I'm doing great things. And, you know, I take pleasure in this, and it's an honor to do this. You know, it's not hard, but with the strength and the help from God, it can be done. But so my next step is I'm working my way up for a movie. Right now, I'm honored. It's a privilege to be able to give back to the community and do a stage play. So right now, me and my actors are working on a stage play. So we've been doing rehearsals, and we're getting prepared for July 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, 2025. We're going to be performing on stage, acting out a short playwright productions of I Broke Out of Prison Enterprises, LLC. Okay, so we're excited about that. And so, yeah, people can come out, and it's going to be held at Wampa. All you got to do is Google Wampa, and they have a black box where people can come out and watch plays and, you know, movies and stuff like that. And also, I'm working on another project of another documentary film. My first one went viral. It's on YouTube, and all people got to do is type in I Broke Out of Prison and watch my award-winning short documentary film on YouTube, same title as my book.
My team and I went to Wampa for the first time this weekend. First time I ever heard of Wampa, and
Wow.
we were in the black box room.
Wow.
Friend of mine, or theirs actually, is launching a music career. Mm-hmm. And another friend of ours came in to the podcast, Leon the Jokester. Have you ever heard of Leon the Jokester?
I think I saw him on their page.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, he was there, and it was like 6 people that were there having a concert, and Leon was the only one doing comedy. Mm-hmm. But if you guys haven't heard or seen Wampa, and I'm kind of drilling this into it because you guys do need to check out Wampa, because she is going to be there, and it's a cool little venue out in West Tulsa, Charles Page. It is.
It's right around the corner from the Lotta Burger.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what part of town do you guys live in now?
So I'm in the north part of town, me and my husband. And so, yeah, we're there.
So you did not move out of
Did not move
that
out.
area.
Did not move out yet. Mm-hmm. Yes.
There's a lot of sayings that say something of this nature, and this is the Complete Peace Movement's version of it. People, places, and practices. Mm-hmm. Now, your family is going in a reasonable, good direction.
You mean my family?
Your family
is going in a
is
reasonably
good direction, I assume.
I don't think so.
No,
yeah, I don't think so. No.
But your child was raised by these in-laws of yours.
Raised by me, just
after
the only departure me and my son had was when I went to prison on an 8-year sentence, but I was away for 3 years. But other than that,
Other than that, you raised him.
Other than that, I raised my son. So yeah.
So you still have a relationship with your family.
Of course, yeah.
Even though they're not going in a reasonably good direction.
You mean my family?
Yes, that's...
Well, I'm not... Just because someone is blood kin to someone, it doesn't mean that it's all good. That it's not so. The family I come from, people talk about me, people hate on me, but that's not what God said in my life. And I'm the real truth. I look up, they look up to me, I inspire them. They know where I came from. I'd fight at the drop of a hat. That's the way I was raised up. Somebody wanted to get one with me, it was on just like that. But as I got into God at 21 and God said, that's not the way to go. It's not good to put your hands on somebody and then you're going to be looking stupid. You're going to be going to jail. You got to go to court. You got to pay restitution, But a lot of people that I know, which I speak about ex-friends and family, are still doing the same thing, expecting different results. And that's not going to happen. So I'm not going to stand and defend and say, oh, yeah, and pat it down and try to make it look cute. No, a lot of family members don't like me because they see me very successful. They follow my Facebook page. They check me out. And it's only going up from here. And I say that humbly. God knows my heart. It's only going up from here. So like I said, I am going to be doing a movie and I'm going to give back. So you can never forget where you came from. But people that I know and all, I'll continue to give back.
Do you still see yourself as a fighter?
I am a fighter. All my life I had to fight. And that's going to be in my movie. But
today, now, are you a fighter?
I am a fighter today, right now. Every day I wake up, I'm a fighter. I have to fight through. It's not against flesh and blood, but it's spiritual, wickedness, and you just have to fight. All my life, I'm a fighter. I'm a natural born fighter. And then when I turn my life over, I'm a spiritual fighter. So I have to fight. You return evil for good. You give back, you smile, you pray, you forgive. And that's what my life is based on,
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people are not as self-aware as you are. A lot of people would not recognize their self as a strong fighter if they were you.
Yeah.
You have a way of communicating that is very bold.
Yeah. Because, thank you. I look at that because that's how I was, growing up, I fought boys, girls, all my life. I had to literally fight. People would pick with me first. And the way I was raised, my mom taught us, me and my sister, to lift up, get some muscles in our arms, lift up we lived in Comanche Park apartments, the projects, 36th Street North. They tore it down and they're building something better. I don't know. The whole community will see when that happens. But we lived there. I was 11 years old when I lived there. And then me and my sister, we got in trouble at Juvenile. We were stealing and we went to Juvenile. So the judge made my mom go find us a place. And then the judge would release us, as I talk about in my book, to get out of Juvenile. So
to get out of Juvenile was move your place.
She found an apartment in Comanche. And so me and my sister were we did somewhere 54, 60 days, close to 2 months from getting in trouble, taking things that didn't belong to us. So they made my talk about, every time I'm talking about my story, I'm talking about my story, but there were other people there. There were other people who did the same thing as me. But I'm the one out of the family that stands strong and talk about her story. And so, yeah.
So what I just heard was, until we take personal responsibility for our actions and our history and where we currently are in life, there's no change.
There's absolutely no change. It cannot happen.
If it's always somebody else's fault, if you always find a way to blame someone else for your situation or your circumstances, then there's no way to win. Unless you're going to fight your way out of it. Yeah. Self-realization and fight.
Absolutely. So, yeah.
But you didn't fight while you were in prison, or you avoided a fight. You told us.
Well, it could have been one, because God knows I wouldn't have backed down. God already knows that.
Right.
But
you had other opportunities. You had other opportunities to fight too. How many times did you get in fights while you were in prison?
Nothing that, because I all my life I always stayed in my own lane. It was always either somebody else coming over my lane, and I didn't play that, and so a lot of time there's a lot of different stuff that happened growing up, but when my miracle happened, it kept me. Like I could have been horrible. I could have been miserable. I mean, there's lots of people that get locked up every day and they're in jail and they're bothering. They don't care. They don't give a F. They don't care about nobody. They want to steal, kill, and destroy.
Still going down that road of self-destruction, blaming everybody else around them probably for their circumstances.
Yeah. There's a lady
instead of boldly realizing that if I'm having problems, it might be me, because I'm a common denominator where I am.
Come on now, somebody.
I say when I deal with somebody, I lighten myself, because I know that I have a tendency to ask a lot of questions, trying to get to the bottom of something so that I can understand from a very thorough aspect. I know me. And I'm a deep thinker, and I want to make sure that I make the right decisions. And it might be just something that's real simple for everybody else, and nobody else has to go through this. But I help people help me by saying this little bit of humor. Now, I know who I am, and I've had to put up with me for 54 years. Can you please put up with me for about 5 minutes?
Yeah.
To lighten that atmosphere so that we don't get into a struggle, and that kind of helps set the tone. And I also listen to others very intently so that I can see where they are and how to navigate with them through a situation. And I think, and I propose that if more people listened more and thought about what the other person is saying, that maybe we could navigate through life better.
Yes.
And you may have realized that when you were in prison, and this awakening that God gave to you helped you see your surroundings from a different light, and you're currently living that right now. Is that kind of what we're talking about today?
Yes, that is what we're talking about, and there was things that were avoided is because I made my mind up. I really wasn't playing. It's really heartfelt. It's really touching. It makes me want to cry because God helped me. I don't know. A lot of stuff would have happened, but I just thank God for coming into my life and helping me.
Is there one thing that if your younger or less mature self could receive from you that you would like to tell to that person? What is the one thing that you would like to tell your younger or less mature self? A key. What is the key?
I say this, and I say it a lot, and I can't think of anything else right now but to listen up. You have to listen up, and that's my response. When I get asked the question, if I was my younger self, to listen up and really listen up. I could say a whole lot, but, to get to these youngsters, just listen up,
So you're saying no matter how much I say to my younger self, if they're not listening and receiving and processing, then all of my words are worthless?
It is. I mean, if they're not really listening, no, you know what? If they really listen up, but you know what? Some of them are. It's just that there are some seeds sown, and in different, we're talking about juveniles, teenagers, so there's seeds sown, and so some of them are not listening, some of them are listening, but it takes, some sow seeds, and
others
and then
water.
Others water, then it produces, so they listen up a little, because what I want to say, I when I went down to the juvenile, I go down there every month, and I talk to them. And the last time before, one of the juveniles was in her cell. And she was going through something and she wouldn't come out and listen to me as a speaker of the pod. And the next month when I came out, she was sitting down, she was playing cards with the staff, and she said, "Hey, I remember you. God sent you here and he told me before you was coming." I quoted out of scripture, and I'm going to say this in Romans 8:28. "And we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose and plan." So she said, "Hold on 1 minute. I'll be right back." She walked to her cell and grabbed her Bible with that quote in there and said, that's what she read. She circled it and she said, "God told her before I came, and she said, 'Hey, I remember you. You came last month. And you thought I wasn't listening,' because she was in there saying some crazy stuff, and I could see her and peep at her in her dorm. She was the only one that wouldn't come out of the cell in the dorm. And so she said she was listening. And so, it inspired me, and I'm thankful that I can go and give back. But I would say to my younger self and to the youngsters, anybody that's listening in, to listen up. A lot of times we need to be quiet and listen up. And I know, for wives as well, you're a wife and you have a husband and you've got a mouth on you. A lot of times it's good to be quiet and listen up to your husband.
2 ears, 1 mouth.
That's right.
Isn't that the old saying? God did that with cause.
Yes. Mm-hmm. On purpose. Yes.
I broke out of prison. Rattia Rogers. Thanks for coming to the podcast.
Thank you.
What is the website address that they might be able to buy this?
RattiaRogers.com. RattiaRogers.com. And you can also find my story on the 700 Club. Go to my website and you can watch my story where it has truly impacted millions around the world. And I am humbled. Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming today.
Thank you.
We are here to help you discover or develop your passions, how you can use them, and why you exist. How can we help you help others better?